How's it going, everybody? We got a special treat today. We're going to be demoing the Gravely Mach 1. It has this high volume output deck. Don't know if many people have even heard of this mower. I haven't until just recently. It's made specifically for cutting tall, thick grass and wet grass. This deck's specially designed, especially for Bahia grass, which we have a lot of down here in the south. This deck is really thin on the back where the blades are, and then it don't have baffles in the front, and it has a lot of space. It gets wider as it comes to this chute, so all the grass don't have to travel over all of the blades like it does on your average mower. It just cuts it, throws it to the front, and then out. And if you can see how big that opening is versus this 60-inch bad boy, it's massive. We'll put them up on a ramp side by side later and give y'all a look underneath, let you check that out a little bit. But this thing's got the FX1000 fuel injected motor. This one is equipped with a hydraulic deck. It's got a little button right here. It's got the run flat front tires, which the bad boy also has. And we're going to be mowing a couple of yards here, getting some footage of how it does just on routine maintenance stuff, and then we're going to cut some really thick stuff and see how it does on that. Another thing, check these spindles out. These things are massive. I guess if it's built to cut tall, thick grass, I guess they had to beef those up pretty good. But this mower has a top speed of like 15 miles an hour, and we're excited to give it a try. So we want to give a thanks to our friends at Red Hot Power Sports for letting us demo this model today. And it very possibly is going to be my next lawnmower. So we're going to try it out, see how we like it. Enjoy the video. Alright guys, I've cut most of this backyard here. We had to cut in some weird patterns and stuff because there's some drainage ditches out there. It might not show up on camera, so that's why we had to cut a certain way. But anyway, it did a really nice job. I was wondering if it was just a kind of a one-trick pony because it's for high, thick grass, high volume deck. You know, it's missing that front baffle, and that gives it that extra space for that tall grass to stand up in front of the blades and get cut off. But it cut short grass really well too, so you could use it as a daily mower. We're here in the middle of July, and this grass hadn't been thirsty this year. I mean, we have had tons of rain. This is a really thick centipede. It's got a good bit of bahia sticking up in it, and it cut everything first pass perfect. There's no clumps left. I mean, it dispersed that grass better than any mower I've ever used. And like I said, it did a really, really nice job. So this is a mower that you could use for more than just thick stuff. You could use this mower every day in your business. Hey, do the 3 countdown for put this thing to the test out here in some tall grass. As you can see, this is some thick stuff. This is out in the field. It hasn't been mowed this year. Like I said, we're mid-July. We've had tons of rain this year, so it's really grown and it's thick. So we're gonna see what it'll do in this thick stuff. We're gonna see if this thing's really as good as they say it is. We're gonna do about 4 inches. Okay, so that was super duper thick. It left just a little bit sticking up. And it mainly cut all the grass pretty good. It's just some of the trees and weeds that it didn't cut as well because they don't bend over that good like grass does. So that's pretty impressive. I'm gonna go ahead and let the deck all the way up. It's probably a little too low for it to be cutting at 4 inches over here. So we're gonna go ahead and raise it on up and see how it does. Okay, so on grass this tall, you would still have to double cut, but it's quite a noticeable difference.
Yeah.
Where the bad boy went and where the Mach 1 Gravely went. I mean, it's double as much grass sticking up. That's not too bad on the Gravely side. That's still a lot of grass needs cutting over here. And not to mention, it's not bogging the engine down nearly as much because it gets that grass out of there. Let's go put these things up on some ramps and look under the decks, and we'll talk about some of the differences and how this thing works like it does. All right, we're back at home and we got these things up on some ramps. We're going to show y'all underneath the deck on this thing. First, let's look at a standard deck. This is underneath a 61-inch bad boy. Excuse the baffles, they're a little banged up. But as you can see, these are the baffles that go around the deck, around the blades. And that helps create a vacuum that helps suck grass up. But it also, you got all this space from the front of the deck all the way to the baffles, so when grass comes up under here before it gets to the blades, it's also going to get pushed down again by these baffles. So this Mach 1 Gravely over here doesn't have baffles in the front, so it has all this extra space to allow the grass to get out and allow the grass to stand up under here before it gets cut. So it's actually a really smart design, because when you're cutting inside these baffles, this far blade, everything it cuts has to travel then inside the baffle system over the center blade, which is already cutting a lot of grass, and then all the grass that those two blades are cutting has to travel over the third blade before it can exit the deck. So that's why you get a lot of bogging and bad cutting. All right, let's look over here. All right, now I'm not an expert on this mower deck design by no means, but anybody can tell that that is far better. You can see how big the space is where the grass can come out. These blades are down low in the deck, as far to the back as they can get them. But see, that's a lot of space in here before it gets to the blades. So that's that space where all that tall grass you're cutting can come out of here without getting on top of the blades and bogging the mower down, bogging your engine down. It's a lot easier on your machine, and you can tell from the outside the deck starts down here. I don't know, that's probably 4.5, 5 inches deep, and then it just keeps getting, by the time it gets to this side, I mean, that's probably 7 or 8 inches. So it's pretty awesome. Like I said, I was highly impressed, enough to where I'll say this will be my next mower. And again, I just want to give a shout out to, and a big thanks to Red Hot Power Sports in Meridian, Mississippi, on Frontage Road right off the interstate. If you guys are anywhere in Mississippi or Alabama and need anything Kawasaki, Gravely, Aaron's, they also sell Traxxas RCs. These guys are laser focused on customer service. They're very knowledgeable about what they're doing. Very helpful. I'd recommend you guys come check them out and buy what you need from them. And we appreciate them a whole lot for letting us use this machine today. And that's going to be it, guys. This mower does what they say it'll do, and we're very happy with it. Thanks for watching.